Welcome, everybody, to another Fantasy and Frames Wednesday. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards, here on Dynasty 365. I'm joined by JT. I'm joined by Aiden. And tonight, we're going to be talking about 2025 Dynasty risers and fallers at the wide receiver position now that the draft is over with. Free agency, for the most part, is over with. So we got some really cool names that are going to really, I think they're going to, some are going to shock you. Some will be kind of, they may not, but we'll find out. We'll see what you think right after this. Yeah, so guys, this was actually a really fun exercise to go through, going through the different wide receivers here from a dynasty perspective, looking at the risers and fallers, because even in and we'll definitely get to this team, which I'm trying to stay away from spoiling it, but like even on this team, wink, wink, the three of us know what I'm talking about. There's still some value to be had, and so that just goes to show all the dynasty managers out there that even though you may be having wide receivers that are on quote unquote bad team or bad for fantasy overall, you may find some value there that you may want to pay attention to and try and see if you can acquire them going forward. But before we get into all that, make sure, folks, you head over to fantasyandframes.com today. Check out our rankings. Check out our articles. We got so much going out. Aiden's got an article coming out tonight talking about risers. The fallout at the running back position.
Part two.
Joe Harlow's got his part 2 for wide receivers, the fallout from the draft. So we got a lot of stuff coming out, as well as some 101 articles. We're doing a 101 series covering all the different aspects of fantasy football. And coincidentally, the first 2 articles that will be coming out are our Best Ball 101s and our Dynasty 101 articles. So for those who have friends who are maybe on the fence about Dynasty or Best Ball and don't know too much about it, check out those articles dropping. I want to say this coming Monday. So we are, on Memorial Day. So just stay tuned for that. And with that, let me toss it over to the JT and ask JT, how the hell are you doing today, man?
Doing all right, a little crazy. Draft, like I said, I feel like I say every week, deep in the Dynasty rookie drafts, making moves everywhere. Had my home league draft, our big 2 QB full IDP draft on Sunday night.
Nice.
Things did not go how I had planned at all. Everyone I was going to take got taken in front of me. I had to completely switch my strategy in the middle of the draft. I was texting the Discord, the Fantasy and Frames Discord, asking people what to do because I got
that's what that's
big time. I had Travis Hunter was my guy at 104, and just before the draft, a dude traded up from 106 to 103 to snipe me on Travis Hunter, and all he had to pay was a mid-third round pick to move from 6 to 3. I was like, if I would have realized that, I would have gave up a third to move up from 4 to 3. I'm so mad. So threw me way off. I had like a bunch of different, I had set 107 as well. So I was looking to go, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do there. I needed running back bad. I wanted Hunter, and then I was going to go Travion Henderson at 107, of course, because all that swung things. I ended up taking Cam Ward at 104, which I wasn't planning on doing at all. But it is a 2 QB league, start 2 QB league. So quarterbacks are gold in this league, whether they're really good or just average. Just having starting quarterbacks matter big time. So I wasn't planning on taking them, but having the overall number 1 pick go to 104 in a 2 QB league almost never happens. I think we haven't seen it since maybe year 3 of the league. It almost always goes QB, like right at the top. So I felt like I had to go value. Took him at 104, switched everything up that I was going to do, and then got to 107 because I took him at 104. The guy that was at 105 was going to take Ward. He took Travion Henderson. So that threw me all off because I was planning on going Henderson there. So then I turned around and ended up going Quinshon Judkins at 107. I tell you what, everybody in my league couldn't believe it. They're like, you just took a Browns player over a Steelers player. With a Steelers player on the board. I said, I know. It's the first time for everything. I said, I just think Quinshon Judkins is so much better than Caleb Johnson that I just couldn't do it. Usually I'm like Steelers. Couldn't do it. I had to take Judkins over Caleb Johnson. So after that, then I had to make a bunch of moves because I didn't have a lot of picks. I ended up trading my 2nd round pick next year, which is a lot. But there was a ton of value on the board. I ended up getting a late 3rd 2 4th-round picks, a 5th, and a 6th, and a deep IDP. I was pumped about the guy. He was like, "Hey, man, I'll trade you everything I have left in this draft for a second rounder next year." I'm like, sold. Because I also only had 2 3rd-round picks, and then I was done because I had made a ton of trades the last 2 years. So I was really low on picks, and I love this draft class. I love the deepness. I ended up being super pumped. I ended up getting a ton of guys. We'll talk a little bit about an IDP. I'll bring it up again, talk about some of the IDP guys I got on Shoot the Gap later. But like I said, I'm full in on rookies here, but this is a great time to talk about these risers and fallers, guys that maybe you can make trades and get these guys, either get them or get rid of them if you're trying to get extra draft picks or trying to get some of those young guys.
Nice. We got a couple comments here in the chat. As always, Jamie, what's cracking? What's cracking, man? Good to see you. As always here. Got Jim in the chat. He says he's in 2 drafts so far this year, both super flex, and Travis Hunter has fallen to the 107 and 109 respectively. It feels like his ADP is all over the place. That is
the farthest I've seen him fall in everything. He's going 101, 102 in every IDP draft I'm in. And in Superflex, I've not seen him I've probably done 6 drafts so far. I've not seen him get past 104 in a draft yet. Yeah. So going 107, 109 to me feels like an absolute steal there.
Absolutely. And Jamie drops in. He says he traded away the 105 for Kyler Murray. He also got Janty and Murray and Hampton in the same draft. Aiden, let me ask you a question. Would you have traded away your 105 for Kyler Murray?
You already know my answer. I gotta say no. I thought this last few years and just not changing. I'm done with Kyler in terms of fantasy. I mean, we talked about a couple weeks ago, Jorge, and we were talking about fallers at the quarterback position. I think Kyler, unfortunately, is absolutely in the downturn of his career. I don't even know he was like at the top of the world for fantasy, but I would feel very squeamish trading a 1st-round pick for Kyler personally. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just saying that's what I would personally believe.
Nice. Folks, don't forget, head over to our socials, jump in the chat. If you're active on YouTube, head over there. You can jump in the chat there. We'll put your comments obviously on screen and answer any Dynasty questions you have, or comment on anything you want to, put in there, to a certain degree.
Anything.
Yeah, exactly. So just we got a lot of good stuff going on tonight here at Fantasy and Frames on the Fantasy and Frames channels. Obviously, this is Dynasty 365. Then we have our IDP pod, Shoot the Gap next. And then after that, we have 4th and Frames, where, on 4th and Frames, the gentleman there will be going over their early running back 1 rankings for redraft. On Shoot the Gap, JT and I were going to be doing our Dynasty risers and fallers at defensive back. And then tomorrow is where it really gets crazy. We got the Rider Dynasty podcast back for their 2nd episode. Thank you to everybody who tuned in last week for their premiere here on the Fantasy and Frames Network. Tomorrow they'll be talking about the landing spots, the best and worst landing spots for the incoming rookie class from a fantasy perspective. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern, we got the draft show with Stacey Perez, Erica Brown, Kevin Tompkins, where they welcome Matt Kelly, yes, the podfather from Player Profiler and creator of the Fast Draft app. They are going to be doing a few Fast Draft app drafts. So that should be a lot of fun. So check out all of our programming going forward for the rest of the week. And again, I say head over to fantasyandframes.com and check out all of our content there. We really appreciate all your support and tuning in and all that jazz. So with that being said, let's get down to business. Aiden, let's start with you. I feel like you seemed very enthusiastic in the pre-show of when we were talking about the risers and fallers, and I'm like, so who do you got? And you're just like, oh, let me tell you. And then you just proceeded to rattle off the names, and I'm just like, whoa. Let's save that for the show. So
I didn't know how many you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you provided a bunch. So maybe after the show tomorrow, Jim or Zach or both could make graphics just talking about Aiden's risers or fallers and have exactly. But anyhow, Aiden, let's start on a positive note tonight. Who is a riser for Dynasty at the wide receiver position for you?
So I promise I'm not being a Buffalo Bills homer here, but it is a big riser for me personally. Is Buffalo Bills wide receiver Keon Coleman. Yes, Khalil Shakir is there, but Khalil Shakir does most, if not all, of his work out of the slot. And if you just look at this offensive ecosystem, yes, it's about a 50-50 split in terms of when they run with the running backs, when they pass with Josh Allen and company. But they didn't really add anything significant, especially on the true prototype receiver that is Keon Coleman. Yes, they added Josh Palmer, but for dynasty purposes, who really cares? I thought personally as a Bills fan, they were going to take a receiver late day 2, early day 3, and they took Caden Prather in the 7th round. Most likely, he's not going to make the final 53-man roster waiver claim. Who cares? So Keon Coleman, that signals to me that Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and the Buffalo Business Company are expecting a lot from Keon Coleman. I'm personally skeptical of the breakout a bit. From a fantasy perspective, though, they are expecting a lot from him. I think if he has to have this breakout, he's going to have to be more of a target earner from Josh Allen. But I think another offseason of Josh Allen and Keon Coleman building that chemistry is great. And I just go back to, I keep pounding home that they didn't draft anyone like I thought they would. So they're expecting a ton from Keon Coleman. And that's where my confidence in this year 2 rise from Keon Coleman stems from.
JT, what do you have to think about Keon Coleman here on the Buffalo Bills?
To me, Coleman was a guy, if you were taking him last year and you thought he was going to immediately be a breakout, I
agree.
I just wasn't seeing it. I thought he was a guy who was going to need a little time to work in. Just looking at his college production, what he did at Michigan State, what he did at Florida State, he just needed some time to really get into a system and learn it. So I like Coleman. I think there's upside there. He's one of those guys, again, last year at the Combine, people saw the 40 time. They're like, oh, man, this guy, I don't know, man. But he's way more athletic than people give him credit for. I mean, he was a punt returner at Michigan State and Florida State. You don't put a 6'3" wide receiver back in punt return unless that guy is athletic. So his breakaway speed is not the greatest in the world, but I actually think he's got room to go up. I really do. I know people don't like him, and I know it's like, but this is the thing is, this is the perfect time to go get him if you actually think he can improve this year, because there's going to be a ton of people out there out on him. A ton of people are going to be like, as Jamie's saying in the comment here, Keon Coleman gross. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who feel that way. And so if you actually like him, now's the time to go try to grab him, because there's some people I think that would move him for a future 2nd or 3rd easily. So if you want to move him and go get him, I just like the fact that he has a chance to improve on last year, make that 2nd year kind of breakout. And then you always got to love a guy that's with Josh Allen. It's going to give you a shot to do something. So I like Keon Coleman. Is he going to have a monster year? I don't think so, but I think he's going to have a much improved year over last year. I do. I do think it could end up being a solid flex play for you this season.
I'd agree.
Love it. Okay, JT, why don't you take us to a faller of yours, actually? You're gonna just jump around here.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's quite a group. You know what? I'm just going to kick us off because I know we all have a lot to say about this group. So let's just get into it.
Right.
The entire Green Bay Packers wide receiver room is a cluster. It's an absolute cluster right now. What do we do with it? Who's going to be the man? Who's not? I have to be honest with you. I don't think there is a man. I don't think there is going to be a guy. I think it's just going to be a mix of guys having different weeks. You're absolutely going to be struggling to figure out who to start every week. This is a team filled with best ball guys that you want to have. If you have him on your roster, you're like, okay, great. If he has a big night, a big week, sweet. He hit for me, but I have Jaden Reed in a couple best ball leagues. I'm totally fine with it. Start lineup leagues. I am absolutely nervous as shit to think about starting him most weeks if it's not a bye week or where I'm short on guys, because you just don't know what you're going to get week to week with him. And I just think the Packers offense in general is going to be a little bit like this. We had that big, Jordan Love breakout, but last year, if you get rid of the touchdowns, which he had a lot of short touchdowns near the goal line, if you lower his touchdowns by about 5, the stats are very average. I mean, you have people ripping Caleb Williams, and they basically had identical stats minus Caleb Williams having a few more touchdowns. I don't see this being a super explosive Packers offense. I think they're still going to lean on the run game with Josh Jacobs, and I just think it's going to be a guessing. Unless guys get hurt and they get down to just a couple guys, and you're like, oh, okay, now we know who to play because there's only 3 guys that are even like possible to play. I am very nervous about this group as far as, real life football, solid group of wide receivers. Fantasy, I just think it's going to be a headache for fantasy managers every week to decide if they want to play any of these guys.
Aiden, what are your thoughts here on the Green Bay Packers situation?
Man, I totally agree. I personally love Matthew Golden, just to put it out there. He's my wide receiver 2 pre-draft, so I think he will be the year 1 target earner, top target earner for this Packers wide receiver group. But JT mentioned the run heavy with Josh Jacobs. Hopefully Jordan Love can bounce back from a fantasy perspective at least. I don't like any of these Packers wide receivers. Not only did they draft Golden, but they also drafted Savion Williams. And you talk about Jaden Reed specifically. Why do we love him for fantasy? Oh, he's a gadget guy. He gets those schemed up touches, screens, rushing attempts like a Deebo Samuel light type. Well, you know who they just drafted that can do that at maybe a higher level in a much bigger frame? Savion Williams. So I don't know what to think of Jaden Reed. So I'm all over this. I don't want any of these receivers. Matthew Golden maybe if it starts to heat up after a few weeks just because I did love him so much pre-draft. But generally, I'm staying away. And prominently, Jaden Reed is the guy I'm staying away from the most as the quote-unquote big ticket name here.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, let me get into a riser of mine. And originally, I was going to put him down as a faller, but I let my injury bias get in the way, and that's something, folks, you should definitely catch yourself from doing. You can't bank on injuries, just like you can't bank on number of touchdowns each year. These are not like sticky situations. Now, you got to go in there expecting these people to play a certain amount of games, unless it's like years and years and years of, evidence that, that these people are injury prone, quote unquote. But I'm going to go for a riser, and this is going to be kind of this may be a little bit hot takey, or I like Chris Olave actually. I understand the quarterback position is not exactly what we like to call good in New Orleans. Obviously, Derek Carr retiring, puts a damper on things. I just think that is great for Chris Olave because you have Tyler Shuck, who right now is considered the starter at this point in time over Spencer Rattler. And it's one of those things where when you have an inexperienced quarterback in your, on your roster, you're not expecting him to set the world ablaze and like hyper target everybody. You expect him to lock in on a reliable target. And you look at, Chris Olave last year, his catch rate rather was 76.2%. The next person was Cedric Wilson with 74.1, and then the all worldly, and I say that in air quotes, Rashid Shaheed had a 50% catch rate. I'm not disrespecting. I'm just saying, like, Olave in terms of his ability to be the reliable target on this team. I just think there's going to be a lot of like hyper funneling of targets going his way, and that could potentially elevate his dynasty floor now. And everybody has recency bias. It's it is what it is. And everybody's going to be going to like, last year, he's been dealing with concussions. He's a concussion guy. He's not going to be that good. He is in a bad offense. So it's, they're just going to throw it to Alvin Kamara. I'm like, well, they can only throw it to Alvin Kamara only so many times. They're going to have a wide receiver that he locks onto. And I think Chris Olave has the talent. He was near the tops of the league last year in yards per route run with 2.26. He has the upside there. He has the upside. Last year, his receiving yards market share was 22.7%. So he is definitely somebody who is, he's like, and I hate to do this. I really hate doing this. And I apologize ahead of time for those who are the Chris Olave fans out there, but he is like the Allen Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow.
You go back a few years ago. He needs to earn a little bit more, accolades before we start getting the anointing oil, to quote Bill Parcells. Yeah. He is that hyper targeted wide receiver. He's going to be by Tyler Shuck until either Tyler Shuck is no longer the quarterback and they get somebody better back there, or he progresses to the point where he can start spreading the ball around and they have more viable receiving options week in and week out. Until then, I think you're going to see a lot of hyper targeted volume going Chris Olave's way. And that's why I think his value could be going up there and making him definitely a hard person to get, especially when the season goes on. Mid-season, like beginning of the season, between now and the beginning of the season, I definitely think you can get him, cheaper than you will mid-season, just because I just feel like you're going to see the volume go to his direction, the target share going to go his direction, and the production. Again, I'm not worried about injuries. I don't want to go back to that whole like, well, he's injured this. Like you can't think like that. You got to think about these guys as being able to go on the field at 100%. And we haven't heard anything about any lingering effects from his injury last year. So, to the moon as I feel dirty even saying that. I'm sorry. Chris Olave, definitely.
Jorge, I'm in with you on this one. I think he's a faller for most people, but that makes him a riser for me because I like him. You can get, dude, he is trying to get traded in almost every league I'm in. In almost every league I'm in right now, he's on the trade block and people are trying to move him. If you're going to buy, now's the time to buy. No one believes in the Saints. No one knows what's going on in the quarterback situation. But like you said, at some point, this isn't college. They're not running the freaking wishbone. They have to throw the ball at some point. Somebody's got to get targets. Now, is he going to get a lot of off targets? Like, are they going to way overthrow him? Is he going to get a lot of shitty throws coming his way? Probably. But he's also going to see a lot of throws. So even if they're bad throws, he's going to see a lot of volume for fantasy purposes. I like it. I mean, and this is a team most likely going to be down in a lot of games. They're going to have to throw the ball at some point. So you're telling me right now that this team's getting smoked week in, week out, and you can't get Chris Olave 6-7 catches a game for 70 to 90 yards and an occasional touchdown, even if it only ends up with like 3 or 4 on the year.
There's not going to be many opportunities.
The touchdowns, he's probably not going to get many, but like you're telling me you can't get this guy double-digit targets in a game and you can't get him somewhere between 5 and 7 catches for 70 to 80 yards, even on average, just on a bad team? I think you can. So I like him, especially at the cost you're getting him at now. I mean, you were going to have to give up a first easily to get him in the past. If you package a deal now with him, he's going for early to mid second in a ton of leagues. Straight up, I've seen it, but also if you can just package him in a deal, I'm liking it, man. He's just not bringing the value in trades that he was even a year ago. And then like you said, the concussions for people are a problem. The quarterback is a huge problem, but somebody outside of Alvin Kamara has to get some offensive touches. And I'm putting my money on Chris Olave.
Aiden, you think that's too spicy, or do you think there's some validity there to that Olave take?
I think that's too spicy. Personally, I'm staying away from the Saints offense as a whole. 1, you mentioned the concussions. 2, it's probably going to be a slow-paced, heavy running offense of Alvin Kamara. And 3, how many touchdown opportunities are there actually going to be? Yes, he could get a ton of targets, but like, how much of those targets actually worth? Like, if you get a ton of targets, great. But how much, what are you actually doing with those targets? The only piece I can maybe see me wanting from the Saints offense is Alvin Kamara. And even that's more of like a redraft thing, more than a dynasty thing. From more of a dynasty perspective, maybe Alvin Kamara, but I'd just stay away as a whole personally. You could paint the picture. Maybe Chris Olave deals with Tyler Shuck for a year, and then they get someone like Lenore Sellers or some other Arch Manning if he comes out, some other high-end, highly touted QB in college. But I don't know. I feel like the Saints are just going to be very, very bad. And how you get a ton of targets, but how much are those targets actually worth?
Well, if you catch a lot of them, which he catches, 74% of them, I think that
the yardage. I'm talking in terms of yardage and touchdown opportunities.
I'm thinking more the reception upside, but I can understand where you're saying with that as well. People in the chat, whether you're watching on X or YouTube, let us know. What do you think about Chris Olave? Or is he somebody that you're trying to acquire in Dynasty on the cheap, or are you just staying away completely? Let us know what you think. Let's get to a faller here. Let me just drop in a faller real quickly. This shouldn't take too long. Mason Rudolph is the quarterback as we currently stand as of today.
I know where you're going.
DK Metcalf, man, you want to talk about just, I'm going to a good situation. I may be having a future Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers. I got George Pickens on the other side. I mean, we're going to be that tandem, and not
Slow
anymore.
down.
Not right now. And to be honest with you, even if they did next year bring in a quarterback, because again, we're thinking about what, like 3 years ahead, 3 years in Dynasty. I don't think they're going to retool that receiving room, so to speak, in just 1 year. I think they obviously want to address other areas on that team. So again, you're looking at a situation which maybe the quarterback play is a little bit better, but you're still going to have situations where he's going to be keyed on. The Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely a run-heavy team, run-heavy offense, so you already have that working against you from that perspective. So yeah, DK Metcalf is definitely a faller for me in Dynasty to this point. All right, Steelers fan, what are your thoughts on DK?
I know he agrees.
So yeah, I agree with you. He's a fall. Where you want DK is deep play leagues, high bonuses for long touchdowns.
Yeah.
Low point per reception leagues. That's where he's going to get you your most value, because he's not going to get a million catches. He's going to do a lot of his work on play action, deep down the field plays where he has a couple huge plays a game. But it's going to be, I mean, the one thing, and I will say this, I feel like I'm the Mason Rudolph apologist always. But the one thing he does do well is throw the ball deep downfield. Like that's probably his actual best trait, is throwing a good deep ball. Now he's not great at everything else, but that's his best trait. So if they can run the ball efficiently and throw deep, I think DK can still be solid, but I think the ceiling is low. I think it's low for what you think you can get production-wise out of them. I just don't think there's a lot of upside there. So, and what it would take to get DK is tough. I think there's it's almost impossible to figure out an argument to make him somehow a riser. I just don't know how you could do it. This offense I don't think is going to be great. If they're efficient, I think this team's going to try to play efficient and try to play a really good defensive game. I think that's what they're going to do. It just doesn't lead to a lot of volume. You saw what we got out of George Pickens last year. Now, why I think DK is a better overall player than Pickens, I think you're looking at very similar numbers. I mean, to be honest, if you get 65 catches for 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns out of DK, I think you would have to be kind of happy this year. And I think that's like high end. I think that's like topping out on what you could get out of him this year. So the fact that that's topping out makes me real nervous, because all it takes is a couple real bad games, something to go wrong, and like you don't even hit those numbers. So
he's not going to be a high end target earner. So
yeah, and that's my thing is he's not going to the where DK is going to be best for you in fantasy is long touchdown bonus leagues, long catch bonus leagues, and low PPR. Like if you're in like a half point per PPR reception, those are better leagues for him, because he's going to get the long plays. He's going to get you a couple long touchdowns. He'll win you a week or two where he ends up with like 4 catches for like 125 and 2 touchdowns. But you're going to get some of those just dud weeks where they just can't get him the ball and he just kills you. It's going to happen. We've seen this Steelers team the last couple of years. They cannot put up points. So I just think it's I usually am not one of the very pessimistic fans of a team. I'm usually pretty optimistic when it comes to a team. I don't know if I've been more down on the Steelers entering a season in the last decade. I really this team, I just don't know where they're going. It scares me for everything. I'm sure DK is real glad he got paid, because he's going to be real upset once game time comes about all that. So I just don't love it. I don't love who else they put around him, especially getting rid of Pickens. Now you can just play a safety over the top of DK. Makes me real nervous for any kind of upside for him.
You forgot to mention the best scoring sitting, which is non-PPR. Yes, I am one of those purists.
If you want, that's what I'm saying. If you're in a half PPR or a non-PPR league, that's your best option to have a DK in. Like I'm in a league where we get like anywhere from 2 to 4 bonus points for deep
Touchdown.
receptions, like 40, 50-yard catches, and then an extra 2 to 3 bonus points on 40 to 50-yard touchdown receptions. Those leagues, you're going to like him because he's going to get you some big weeks where he ends up with like 20 some plus points because of the bonuses. But if you're in like a regular scoring league with no long play bonuses, just 1 point PPR, 0.1 per yards, he's gonna be a middle of the pack guy. He's just gonna be right in the middle, and you're gonna be like, I thought I was getting wide receiver 1 or 2, and you're gonna be like getting wide receiver 3 numbers if you're lucky out of DK, I think.
All right, Aiden, let's pull ourselves out of this negative tailspin here as we're talking about some fallers here and give us some hope in terms of some dynasty risers at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with both San Francisco 49ers receivers in both Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. I don't really care which one you go with, but I personally am going to go with Ricky Pearsall because I just think basically last year was a wash, and after being shot, it was amazing what he was able to do, in even 3 games, and I just think the ceiling is higher with him than Jennings. You look here, obviously Brock Purdy just got the big payday. No worries with him. He's not very mobile, so it's a high volume passing offense. We don't know what Christian McCaffrey will be. Debo's gone, so no more scheme touches for him. And Ricky Pearsall, the targets are all vacated and probably going to go to Ricky Pearsall. And then 3, there's a lot of outs here. Ricky Pearsall could be the focal point of this offense. 3, Brandon Ayuk, maybe he'll be ready for week 1 off his 20 ACL. Maybe not, but even if he is, will it take a month or so to come back? We don't know. And then George Kittle's George Kittle. That's whatever. But I think Ricky Pearsall could be I'm not saying guaranteeing he will be, but Brandon Ayuk included, could be the wide receiver 1 in their eyes for the San Francisco 49ers. So I am basically very high on Ricky Pearsall for this year and beyond. And I loved what I saw last year. I mean, it was amazing what he was able to do after what he went through to even put up that production. I mean, he had over 100 receiving yards the last 3 games of the season each. So very, very impressive stuff. So I'm buying Ricky Pearsall everywhere. I know he might be pretty expensive because of the first-round pick stuff from last year, but I really, really like his outlook.
Before we get to a faller, I know you love both of these guys, Aiden, so I want you to answer Cole's question here. He says, Zach Charbonnet or Trey Benson?
What the? I'd probably go Trey Benson just because I think Kenneth Walker gets a bulk of the workload in Seattle, and I think James Conner's obviously getting older, injury history, and I think Trey Benson could be a handcuff plus if given the opportunity this year. So I'll go Trey Benson.
Cole asks, would you guys be able to give any advice or give an opinion on my dynasty team I just drafted? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Drop your team situation in the comment section of this episode, and we'll go and we will respond to it.
Or hey, a reminder too, guys, if you're out there, if you're watching the show, you can always join our Discord. We talk about this stuff all the time in the Discord. We're always posting teams, draft picks. Hey, I'm coming up in my draft. I'm looking at these guys. Here's my team situation. Always great to get feedback. Even us, I mean, we're guys that we do this all the time. I still want to bounce ideas off of people and like, here's my team, guys. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? I always think it's nice to bounce ideas off of people before you make a decision. You don't always have to take our advice on it, but I think just talking through sometimes helps. So yeah, feel free to put it in here, but also on our Discord channel, you can jump in there. Always a great place, and always on Twitter or X as well. You can always pop stuff up on there. And we'll respond to those. I know me specifically, people will sometimes just send me messages as opposed to like posting on the page if they don't want it like on like Twitter. Like I'll answer those DMs. You send it to me, I'll tell you kind of what I'm thinking or who I like. And I'll tell you that. So, yeah, there are a couple different ways you can get a hold of us to kind of go through those things. But, yeah, I answered in the Discord. I love Trey Benson. I think he's a gigantic buy. He was my RB1 last year, and I knew he was going to be a year 2 or year 3 guy behind Connor. But I still like the talent of Benson. I like the upside of him. I think he's really good. I'm not a Zach Charbonnet guy. I actually like Damian Martinez, who they just drafted out of Miami, much better than Charbonnet. So I'm all over Benson over Charbonnet in that situation.
Agreed.
Just put the link for our Discord in the YouTube chat. So please head over there and join the discussions that we have week in and week out. Let's see here. Okay, let's get to a faller. Aiden, why don't you keep us going with a fall? No, did we just finish the faller? I think we could just.
No, I just did my riser.
Okay, yeah, give us a faller, please.
Okay, so this is a big name, by far the biggest name we talked about tonight. But I'm going to go, unfortunately, with DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. We talked about last week at the running back episode. What if Ben Johnson wants to run the ball more? I don't know how much more, but bottom line, more with DeAndre Swift. That's number one. Number two, we know Ben Johnson loves the slot receiver role. What he did with Amon-Ra St. Brown all those years, those few years in Detroit with the Lions, they just drafted Luther Burden. What if they focus the offense around him? What if Rome Odunze takes a big leap? What if, and I fear that the Bears are doing this, what if they're trying to, for lack of a better term, move on or kick out the older veteran group in Cole Kmet and DJ Moore and usher in the youth movement in Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland, who they also drafted. So there's a lot of moving pieces here in the Chicago offense, and I think DJ Moore is the veteran. This could be his last year in Chicago. So therefore, he's a faller in Dynasty for me just because of the whole youth movement in the receiving group.
He's probably the best value in terms of what you'll get back for him than anybody else there. So that makes a lot of sense. JT, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree on the Moore. I think Odunze has a better year, and we all know I'm a huge Luther Burden guy. I think Burden is going to be big time. I'm going to getting him everywhere I can in rookie drafts. I just think he's going to be highly underrated. I think he's going to play a lot of the slot. Why I think DJ isn't going to get worse. I just think other people are going to see more looks. So I think the numbers for DJ just might not consistently be there week to week.
I agree.
Okay, I'm going to go with a riser here, and scoff at me all you want. Okay, I don't care. I love this guy. Last year, he's gotten better, folks. He's gotten better every single year in terms of production, in terms of most importantly fantasy production. He's getting a massive upgrade at quarterback. In fact, he has 3 to pick from this year. I'm talking about Wan'Dale Robinson. I know we all know Malik Neighbors is the be all end all. But Wan'Dale Robinson is a great PPR.
Yeah, he is.
Great PPR wide receiver. He gets the targets. He gets you the fantasy points. Going back to last year, they were, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games where he was scoring at least double-digit PPR points or more. Definitely not somebody for your half or standard leagues or non-PPR leagues, I should say. But for a PPR league, absolutely, teams are going to be keying on Malik Neighbors. Not that that's going to stop Malik Neighbors, but still, it could. And I think the underneath passes are going to go definitely to Wan'Dale Robinson's direction. So Cole likes this. He loves Wan'Dale. He's a Giants fan. So go figure. And I'm a Commanders fan. So this is me being completely unbiased in this situation.
Yeah,
So if I'm saying it, then I'm going to be, if I
always laugh because I think me and you are like maybe the 2 biggest Wan'Dale Robinson fans out there that are like not actual Giants fans.
Only 2.
I think he's so underrated. And when he's played, now he's dealt with injuries, so we always have to take that in consideration. But when he's actually played, he's been a really nice, solid flex play, especially at the price. I mean, he is like dirt cheap. I mean, he's almost free in a lot of leagues. Wan'Dale, I like him. They're going to have to get somebody else the ball other than just Neighbors. I know that seems crazy, but they're going to have to work somebody else in. I think Wan'Dale underneath the short yardage guy, slot guy, I think he's going to see some nice production. Now, is he going to have a monster year for you? Probably no. But is he going to get you some does he have a nice shot to get you double-digit points on a 1-point PPR every week? Like, yes. He can get 5 for 50 week in and week out. He can be that consistent guy. I like him, man. For the cost, I just think there's so many other guys I see going ahead of him in drafts, startup drafts, or redraft, anything like that. But Dynasty for sure. He's a guy just sitting on waivers or like way low on the MP. Anytime I'm making trades and I see somebody has Wan'Dale Robinson, like I'm absolutely putting him in a trade. Like trying to throw like a 4th round pick in there, and I'll send you a 4th add Wan'Dale Robinson. I've got Wan'Dale Robinson in so many leagues as an add-on. Like somebody will send me a trade, and I'm like, "Oh, I need a little more. Can you throw Wan'Dale Robinson in?" And people are like, if that's going to get the deal done, I guess I will. Awesome. Like, because like people aren't holding him tight. They're like, I don't love it, but they're like, okay. And I've done that probably in 4 or 5 deals where I just like, I feel like I'm getting the player I like, but I'm getting a little less value. I'll throw Wan'Dale Robinson in there for somebody and I'll get him. I just think it's for the cost. It's almost nothing. I mean, it really is. And he's definitely a guy with an upgrade at QB. And if he can stay healthy, he can definitely score you reasonable points week in and week out.
And not to mention, there are rumors floating around that Gabe Davis may reunite with Dable in New York. If that were to happen, that's even more of a positive for Wan'Dale Robinson, because Gabe Davis, I'm sorry, dude, you've got me like in the fantasy playoffs 0 points one year. Like, I have no love for you. So there's not to mention, like, the guy, just a guy who plays in the NFL, not great for fantasy. And I think you give more redundant pieces on that offense, like, with Slayton, and if they brought in Gabe Davis, okay, give me the unique wide receiver in this situation. Obviously, you have the alpha and Malik Neighbors, but give me the unique wide receiver, and that would be Wan'Dale Robinson.
Jorge, I'm going to tell you real quick. Just last year, he's 17 games, only started 7 games. He got 140 targets last year. Now, only caught 93 of them because a lot of them were bad throws. Only 699 yards. So, like 7.5 catch, 3 touchdowns. He easily could match that number and go up. I mean, you're looking at a possible 100 catch season. And even if it is a short yardage guy, which you assume it is, can he get to 1,000 yards? That might be pushing it. But if you could get 90 to 100 catches for 800 to 900 yards with a couple TDs, he's only 23. I mean, he's only 23. He's been banged up the first couple years of his career. I just think this is a prime spot for him to have a really nice season.
Nice. Okay. Let's get to a faller. JT, who's a faller for you?
Another faller for me. Let me jump on my list here real quick. I always try to be positive, me, Jorge.
I know it's hard. It's hard.
A guy for me right now that I'm just not loving, had a decent year last year. A guy I liked coming out big time. I was trying to draft him everywhere, but I just don't have it. I'm down on Jerry Jeudy. This Browns offense it makes me nervous. I know he's a little bit of, you could say the Chris Olave thing is like somebody's got to get targets, so it's him. If Joe Flacco starts at QB, I think I like Jeudy a whole lot more because I think he could throw him the ball a ton. If somebody else starts, I'm not sure that this Browns offense isn't just pound the rock. I mean, I think they end up being possibly very similar to the Steelers in that they both run the ball as much as possible, and they're trying to do play action passing when they can. I think Judy's okay. I don't like him for the cost. If I have him anywhere, I'm trying to move him. If somebody else likes him a lot, again, offense makes me nervous. I think the talent for Jeudy is there. I mean, I think he's a good player. I don't love everything that's going on in Cleveland. And outside of the running backs, I like the rookie running backs, but everybody else, I'm just not so sure about. 45 targets last year, by far the most he's ever gotten in a season. 90 catches, 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns. And a lot of that came when we had Jameis just chucking the ball all over the place. I think it's going to be very hard for him to match 90, 1,204 again. I kind of feel like with this offense, that's cap for him. So if I can sell that on somebody that looks at those numbers and be like, boom, I'm getting a guy who can get 90, 100 catches, 1,200 yards, and 5 or 6 touchdowns, I'm selling him to them because I don't think he hits that this year.
It's going to be a slog of an offense. So who really like?
Agree.
Even if he's the number one piece, like what value does that even bring in an offense like this?
And let's not forget, we saw the emergence of Cedric Tillman last year until he was injured. In games played with Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy was averaging 12.9 PPR points per game, 4.6 receptions per game, 7.8 targets, and 65.3 yards per game. In games without Cedric Tillman, obviously you saw the bump in production to 15.3 PPR points per game, around 6 receptions, around 9 targets a game. Like you're not getting that if you have all. First of all, you're not getting that for all the reasons mentioned, JT, that you were talking about, as far as the running game situation being the predominant aspect of this offense for the Cleveland Browns. But even the quarterback position, you just don't know what the hell's going on. Now, let me ask you a question though. Now, we talk about the in game splits and the out game splits with Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. Joe Flacco, okay, good old emphasis on old Joe Flacco. Do you think that he brings any redeeming quality from a fantasy standpoint to either wide receiver, Aiden?
I mean, we saw it in 2023. He loves to truck the ball downfield, interception or not. He'll take those chances. I just, at this stage, at this age, what motivations does he really have to try to go out there and win games anymore? And no matter who's out there, I guess it could be a little better than Joe Flacco. I just fear for the weapons that it's just going to be a run-heavy offense. And I don't know if any of these guys even have spike weeks as like a best ball option.
JT, what do you think?
If I'm Cleveland, I don't even know why Flacco is in the mix here. Like, I can understand having him go in there and try to teach some of those young guys and do some stuff. I just don't see the upside of it. And he had that nice little run 2 years ago for him where we went 4-1 in 5 games. Threw for 1,600 yards. So I mean, obviously he was chucking the ball in those games. Had 13 TDs in that stretch, which was insane. But also threw 8 picks in that same stretch.
Take chances.
Last year for the Colts, when they brought him in, we saw the decline. 8 games started, or played in 8 games, started 6, went 2-4 in those games, threw for 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks. To me, upside, maybe he throws a little more, and that helps those wide receivers, but if I'm Cleveland, I just don't understand why you're not. You might not love these guys, but why you're not going with Pickett, Gabriel, or Shadur Sanders, I don't understand. Like, I think it should be a clear cut. Those 3 guys battling it out. Whoever wins gets the starting job, because you need to see what you have. Because this team most likely is not going to be very good, and I know teams hate to go into the season going, "Oh, we're probably not going to be very good, so let's play the young guy," but I just don't see what Flacco brings to you. If he starts the whole season, do they make the playoffs?
No.
I don't think so. So it's like, why wouldn't you play the young guys and see if you have anything? We kind of know what Kenny Pickett is, but he could be okay for them. I'd rather see Kenny Pickett play all year than Flacco, but why wouldn't you take the 2 young quarterbacks you drafted, see which one's going to be the guy? I mean, you possibly have a longer future quarterback there. I'm a Shadur guy. I know I ate it in the draft when he didn't go to the 5th round. I think he should be the starter. I think they should roll with him and see what happens. And if it's a bomb, it's a bomb. He was a 5th round pick. They're not going to lose much money on him. But I would. That's what I would roll with him and see what we can do. See if we can build a team around him. Because again, if you're terrible, you're going to be drafting a QB next year anyway. So you might as well play the young guys. I mean, I just don't understand the Flacco thing. I know that little burst 2 years ago has people excited, and you're like, "Ooh, could he go back in there and throw for 300 a game?" It was kind of everything came together at just the right moment for that to happen. There's no way he goes and starts for the Cleveland Browns this year and throws for 300 yards a game. It's not going to happen. He'll be in like the 200, 225 range if he's lucky. They're going to run the ball. I don't love it. I don't love it for the wide receivers. I got Cedric Tillman on a couple teams. I'm trying to move him if I can. I just don't. I don't think either of these guys have a huge upside this year.
All right, let's get into for our last group of risers and fallers. Let's get into the controversial team that I was teasing at the beginning of the show. Let's try and find some value here. Let's try and see who's moving up and down. Our boards here in terms of dynasty rankings. Let's talk about the 2 prominent wide receivers on the Indianapolis Colts. Again, one of your teams, JT. Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. Let me just throw some numbers out here and get your guys' opinion. For both quarterbacks, we have uncertainty who's going to be the guy. Is it going to be Anthony Richardson? Is it going to be Daniel Jones? You look at games last year without Anthony Richardson. Josh Downs, without Anthony Richardson as the quarterback, was averaging 9.5 targets a game, 7 receptions a game, and 14.4 PPR points a game. Michael Pittman, without Anthony Richardson, was averaging 13.7 points per game, 7.4 targets a game, and 4.8 receptions a game. So you just look at that, and you're just like, man, if it's anybody but Anthony Richardson, like Josh Downs is going to be the clear number one on this offense in terms of a receiving option, and he's going to eat. The issue here, however, is who's going to be that other quarterback if it's not Anthony Richardson? It is Daniel Jones. And you look at Daniel Jones and you look at his career average depth of target, 7 yards. It just so happens that Josh Downs has a career average depth of target of, Daniel Jones' ADOT is 7.5. Josh Downs' average depth of target is 7 yards. They just drafted Tyler Warren, so that could be targets away from the short to intermediate passes, taking away opportunity from Josh Downs. So for me, he is a faller, but for some reason, just because he's a faller, that makes him more of a value because you have to trust the talent in this situation here to a certain degree. So he's falling in my rankings, but again, at the same time, because he's falling, he becomes more of a target, if that makes any sense. On the flip side, Michael Pittman, his career ADOT is 9 yards. Anthony Richardson's career ADOT is 11 yards. Daniel Jones, again, he's not exactly horrible on deep passes. He didn't throw a lot. You saw him do a lot of the short to intermediate and then scramble and then get sacked for the rest of the time he was on the field in New York. So, he does have those huck it, chuck it moments, but I think if Daniel Jones is the quarterback, Pittman becomes a more of a best ball option. Now, if it is A-Rich, then you could possibly see a tick up in his value just because you do have the propensity for Anthony Richardson to throw it deep, and that is in Michael Pittman's wheelhouse. So I think you could see an uptick in value, but I think, you can see an uptick in rankings in terms of being a riser, not by much, but by a little bit. But I think the fact that you will see his rankings go up, I think that makes him less of a value because I think you're going to be overpaying for what you're really going to get in terms of production. Did that make sense? Did everybody follow along with that reasoning right there?
No, I got it. I mean, I'm personally very down on this Colts offense just because how many weapons they do have to feed, and they just drafted Tyler Warren. So, like you said, Jorge, to your point, the middle of the field targets won't be there for Josh Downs nearly as much, and it's going to be Anthony Richardson / Daniel Jones. How much value does that really bring, and how much passing volume are they actually going to have outside of Jonathan Taylor, who pound the rock a ton of times? I don't know if I want any of these weapons personally outside of Taylor, no matter how much they come at a perceived value.
What about you, JT?
For me, I like Josh Downs no matter what. He's a riser for me. He's a riser for me, but he's also a riser because he's a buy for me. He's falling because everyone, I think there's a lot of people who feel the way Aiden feels, like they just don't want any part of this Colts offense. I know it's really up in the air. The quarterback situation always makes things really iffy. The guy that I think is least affected by the QB situation and the offense in general is Josh Downs. I think he's going to be the one constant on this team. I think no matter who plays quarterback and no matter what the system is, whether they're throwing deep, they're running play action, whatever they're doing, Josh Downs has been the guy that's consistently been the guy that's been able to get targets and get open and get yards when he's healthy. I like Josh Downs a ton. The injuries have slowed him a little bit the last 2 years, but when he's been healthy, he's been phenomenal. Pittman is the bigger faller for me. I think he really needs the quarterbacks to play well and hit him in stride on his specific routes in order for him to be really productive. I just think Josh Downs knows how to get open. He is a guy that both quarterbacks will dump. And I know people are down because they say, hey, Tyler Warren's in here. That's going to hurt Down. I actually think I think Tyler Warren hurts Pittman more and helps Downs personally. because I think Warren's going to run more of the intermediate routes that Pittman runs now. Downs is the short yardage guy. Downs is the guy they want to get in space. I think Warren actually opens things up for Downs because basically you didn't have to guard the tight ends for the Colts last year. They could not get open, and if they did get open, they dropped the ball. No, and people just ignored him. The linebackers didn't have to play the tight ends. They could sit on the under routes for Josh Downs. I think this opens it up for him. I like it a lot more. Pittman's the guy I think takes the biggest hit right now in value. It's really tough to say how he's going to be. He played through the injury last year with the broken back. Now the question is like, how much is he coming back from that? Is it one hit? Is it one of those things like it was a lower back injury? Those things can just continue to creep up and bother you. That worries me with him. And the guy that absolutely gets murdered if they go to Daniel Jones is Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce becomes absolutely him and AD Mitchell are irrelevant if Daniel Jones is the quarterback. I don't think those guys gaining. Alec Pierce is an absolute hammer in best ball with Anthony Richardson. He is like my favorite best ball dynasty player because Anthony Richardson will hammer him with deep passes. 36 catches or 38 last year, over 800 yards. It's freaking insane. Led the league by far in yards per reception and yards per attempt to him. I love Alec Pierce is my favorite buy as far as just cheap. You can get him for almost nothing. I mean, people are giving him up for third, fourth rounders. I'm trading, 6th round rookies that I took for him. So I like him with Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson likes him and knows how to hit him beat. But Daniel Jones wipes Pierce off the board. I mean, he's like, I don't even think could be on your roster if Daniel Jones ends up being the QB. So that for a guy that owns a lot of Alec Pierce, that hurts me there. As I think a lot of what we talked about with DK earlier would go in a lower, position of Alec Pierce. He's obviously no DK, but long ball, bonuses, deep play leagues, he's good. Best ball, he's fantastic for, but he becomes not even playable with a Daniel Jones.
You saw last year Anthony Richardson miss quite a lot of a wide open AD Mitchell, so he would be murdered too if Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, and here's the thing with AD, man. I just had a conversation on a Discord the other day about this. AD Mitchell just isn't very good, man. I hate to tell people this. I know everybody saw the pass where AR overthrew him and was like, oh, he missed him. Yes, he missed him on that one, but AD Mitchell killed him. He dropped so many passes last year. AD Mitchell was not great. He really wasn't. He needs to improve. There's a reason it wasn't just AR missing him. AD Mitchell just wasn't good. Yeah, he was not good last year. He's going to have to improve a lot if he's going to have any fantasy value because right now he is clear cut the fourth guy. And with Tyler Warren coming in, he's probably number 5 in the pecking order here. If you have AD Mitchell and anybody in your league really likes him, I would sell him off to him. Because
did you not like him last year pre-draft?
I did not like him at all pre-draft. When the Colts took him, I tried to talk myself into him. I'm like, okay, maybe he's going to be better than I thought he was. I was absolutely out on him pre-draft. I didn't like him at all. And I tried to talk myself into him, and I'm a Colts season ticket holder. I went to every game. The dude he looks like a professional wide receiver. He has all the attributes, but then when you get him on the field, he's just not that good. It's a struggle, man. And I know everybody thought, oh, he'll just take over where Alec Pierce is. Alec Pierce right now is a much better wide receiver than AD Mitchell.
And so people
hate, yes, and people don't like Alec Pierce. I like Alec Pierce more than anyone. People don't like him at all. So I'm like, if you don't like Alec Pierce, I don't know how you're talking yourself into AD Mitchell. I just don't understand it.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Dynasty 365 podcast. Of course, you can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as check out this episode over on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, hit subscribe and, the notification bell so you're notified when we put out more fantasy football content. For more risers and fallers, I think we'll talk to our graphics people who, by the way, do a fantastic job here at Fantasy and Frame. So Jim and Zach, thank you all very much for your hard work. Maybe we'll get graphics for Aiden's next 100 risers and fallers that we didn't get
It's
to.
only 10 total, okay?
Well, it's okay. Well, fine, 10 total that we didn't get into. But seriously, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. And again, we're going to be going live on the YouTube streams, on the TikTok streams, on the Twitter streams all night long.
No,
Well, the Blue Sky is behind the curve there. They don't allow streaming to Blue Sky, so shame on them. But I'm sure they'll get there soon. But the point is that Fantasy and Frames is going to be broadcasting all night long. We got Shoot the Gap next for all you IDP junkies out there. JT and I are going to be talking about Dynasty risers and fallers at the defensive back position. And then again, Aiden will be joining the guys, Rhett Manuel, Drew Scott, Nate Markham, and Kyle Ziegler, talking about their early RB1 rankings for redraft at 10 p.m. Eastern. So everybody, again, thank you very much for listening or watching and or listening to the Dynasty 365 podcast. So for Aiden, JT, and myself, we will see you next time.